Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Strack.
Here.
Weedman.
Here.
Mack.
Here.
LaCroix.
Here.
Meskell.
Here.
Northern.
Here.
Parkinson.
Here.
Hello. That's a quorum.
Live and learn. Sorry.
Could I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda? Are there any questions? Okay.
Meskell.
Aye.
Strack.
Aye.
Mack.
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye.
Northern.
Aye.
LaCroix.
Aye.
Parkinson. Aye.
Motion carries. Public comments. Two people listed here. First is Ana Osis. Go ahead. If you could take a microphone so we can. Is this thing on?
So I'm here because my great niece is a student at GMS, and recently she received a note in her classroom, and this note had she's mixed race, and this note had some racial slurs, had a swastika symbol and some male body parts drawn on it, and the envelope. So the dean contacted, she brought it to the dean did contact her mother, and they did address it at the school. But the reason that I'm here is I wanted this incident to be public, and then I wanted to know how the schools are addressing these issues as a whole, like as a district, and what practices we have in place for prevention and for educating our students about diversity and racial dynamics in the classroom. Because I really think it's important that all students feel safe, because they have to learn, they have to feel safe. I think if families move to Grace Lake because we have good schools, and then their kids come and they don't feel safe, then they can't learn. And then I also want to know that I know that overall, these incidents have been on the trend, and I'm just wondering if we can track that to see if they're also on the trend.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Lucinda Smetana. This one.
Hi, my name is Lucinda Smetana. I am friends with Anna, and we attend the same church. I live in Grays Lake. I've been a resident here for about 2 years now, and this issue was a little bit more personal for me. I grew up in Lake County. I moved to Grays Lake to avoid this type of content, and I understand that there was some disciplinary action, but it was a 2-day in-school suspension. I guess some of these issues, if we don't really elevate them, then they continue to happen, or it's viewed as something that's just funny within youth. I have biracial children as well, and this is something that's very important to me that the board really takes seriously. I understand there's a diversity committee, which I'm very excited about. When I look at kind of, my kids will go to Grays Lake Central, and there's no, if per the Illinois statistics, there's no African American educators there. Being African American, that's important to me, and then hearing about this incident that happened in middle school was really disheartening. So I guess I just bring a personal perspective of what I really hope to see in our community, and not seeing these numbers of incidences rise is important to me. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, Is your address Anna AJOSIS 03? Okay, I just wanted to make sure when I responded to you that I got the right address.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Board reports, do we have anything anyone would like to share? I know that I will mention that Science Olympiad is having their regionals at CLC this Saturday, so that will be a long day of chaos. And
Hosting a music contest.
yeah,
Music
I was gonna say on this Friday, I believe.
Friday and Saturday, yeah.
So busy weekend.
I'll be able.
Anyone else? Okay.
Well, other than the music festival, I also attended the art show at Grays Lake Library on last Friday night, and as we did last year, probably had over 300 people, and it was great to have grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters come to see their artwork. Did you ever find your daughter's artwork?
No,
Ah.
she didn't think it was there, so I have no idea.
So that's great to see some positive things going. So, and that's all I have.
It was a great event.
Yeah, it's the second year.
Second year we've done this, yeah.
We got there right around, it started at 6:30 or something?
Uh-huh.
We got there right around that time, and the lot was full. People were parking down the street, so.
It was still almost full. I got there at the tail end. And was late, so that's why I missed.
That's how I missed you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, again, another good event there. Committee reports, do you have anything from the, oh, sorry.
Three of us attended, like a sort of a showing of what can be done down the road with a farm without actually being a farm. But want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we had been invited to attend, myself and the whole board got the invitation to go to the Thomas Jefferson, was it, middle school?
Right.
In Waukegan, the Nutrition Hub, which is a very large, very elaborate greenhouse with fish and a lot of different plants, a lot of different growing opportunities, and they had a wonderful tour from the nutrition specialist there and the director of that spot, and taught us about, gave us insight into what those programs are doing for the school and how the students are interacting with it and how the teachers are interacting with it. And when it was built a long time ago, it seemed to be more of a storehouse for summer plants for the teachers, but it has evolved into a curricular-based process. So it was a nice visit.
When you come away from something like that, you think, I'm on a school board, and I'm not sure where it fits in our what we're doing today. But within 48 hours, I read an article in a newspaper about sometimes you go to a fish restaurant and you choose whatever fish you want to eat, or a lobster. Well, you can go somewhere and choose what salad you want, because of hydroponics, it's growing right in front of you. And it makes you stop to think a little bit about how things are changing. And we want to make sure we have our kids prepared to deal with all that, and maybe be part of it as time goes on. Interesting thing. So anyway, I'm certainly weighing all the things that go in there. I remember when I moved here from Iowa, and I stayed at an FFA chapter at Glenbrook South, and I'm thinking, I was raised on a farm, and when people in FFA, Future Farmers of America, had beef cattle and pigs and whatever. Well, they had it at Glenbrook South because it was horticulture. And I hadn't thought of that for an FFA chapter. So we have to think outside the box. I'm not sure I'm doing anything totally different from before I went to this display that day. But there are some things going on around us that we need to keep thinking about, making sure that we're giving these kids fresh ideas and let them grow in those ideas.
A little more color from my perspective. It was about a 50 by 30 foot greenhouse with plexiglass walls. I think they use it year round. They have someone that, teams that come in the summertime. Everything's grown either hydroponically or in special grow mediums like towers. The fish waste is used as food. So I know that they cultivate the fish and sell them. and then they grow using some filtration process with the nitrates that are excreted from the fish.
Yeah, I think it's great that Carol's been able to do that in that school, because we
Mhm.
turned her down when she tried to do that in our district.
Well, the school that we visited, 100% funded it by a donation from the Abbott Fund.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm not
I
sure-
think it's great that it's happening. I think it's too bad that we turned it down a long time ago, because there's been some stuff that's been presented to us that I've tried to get people to rally around. And it does have to do with the fact that if we want to be a resilient community in these trying economic times, I think some ideas have been brought to the board in terms of trying to find some alternative revenue. So it was brought to our board that this was a possibility, and I think it's great. I mean, I really do. And we try to get the greenhouse at GMS, and I know that principal is very supportive of it. And so I really want to see this happen in our district, because as far as it's not just that in terms of a resilient community, but the curriculum that can be tied to it. I'm from Vermont. I went to a school that had an FFA program. What they're doing in the state of Vermont in terms of school community partnerships through that path has been awesome. I mean, they bring the parents in, and it is sponsored by the Farm to School program in Vermont, and they have a tasting, like a whole, it's kind of like similar to what you would have like a taste, how do I say it? Just, I'm thinking of a multicultural night when people bring different foods, but in this case, it's just learning about where your food comes from. And then they have all these different vendors that come in, so it is actually an economic development program, but then at the same time, they're educating parents. They're trying to bring parents in, because part of it is if you want to work on nutrition and some of the issues with some of the health problems and kids who are facing obesity, which is a problem, then these are some avenues where you're getting parents in and you're getting them to buy in. So it's just amazing, some of the work that's being done in this area. And I love it, so I'm all for it.
What was the reason the project ran into roadblocks before? Was it
I think it was
funding?
just a matter of the fact that Carol didn't have a track record. And I understand.
No,
You know, we wanna
it
be
was
risk-averse.
more than that. It was, I don't remember when they first came to board. It was a number of years ago now. But from the beginning, at least to us, there didn't seem to be a coherent plan to get it done. We would ask questions of them, expecting to get information from them in the future, and then they didn't come back with information. So we'd request information from them and not get it. So
Well, that was
I wouldn't
why
say
she
that-
didn't have a track record.
well, I mean, I wouldn't say that we turned it down. I would say
Yeah,
that we never got a complete proposal of any kind.
I got a complete business model.
Yeah. So
So
you know.
as far as a few years.
So,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
still,
I think it's a great idea.
where we're at, I guess,
Yeah.
right? But at least we can see that the idea that she was trying to bring to fruition happened, right? And
Yeah.
it seems to be successful. So then there, like I said, there are these different offshoots to it, and there's a curriculum component that I've tried to address as far as hands-on learning and experiential learning. But that's where I felt like it needs to be sort of a teacher-driven thing, if teachers want to do that, as far as having that in the curriculum, so.
Well, I think they have it at Woodview and at Meadowview. In fact, this week at Meadowview was the Woodland Park learning, and when I went, Paul and I went the other day, first graders were teaching the third graders. It was great opportunity for them to switch roles. So I think that we are doing it. One of the other problems with the greenhouse was that there was, and Keith, I think, is here, you couldn't just put a greenhouse on the grass, so there was going to have to be a concrete foundation, and then we're going to have to get electricity out there. And then the next issue was if there's somebody working there all day, they're going to need to use the restroom. Then the whole security issue came. So there were a lot of things that we needed to work through. And
But
again,
that-
Yeah, and at the time, the funding was
Well, we didn't
Well,
have.
there
any
was
funding.
no
No,
funding.
if
Yeah.
anything, we were at a point where we hoped to at least give that group the green light to try to search for funding, right? So, I mean, that's kind of where we left things. But that was at the end of last year, last school year.
Yeah, I got reiterated, it wouldn't be accurate to say we turned anything down. I remember after that presentation, I went home and I said, what is it that we're referring to? Because I didn't see anything that was concrete that we could build it on at that point. But it is something we can learn about. And I did ask a person in charge at that school, I said, suppose the lady who was in charge of this whole thing left, and what would happen? He said, it may not survive.
Well, that was.
So there's a lot of things have to happen when you have a program like that. You've got to have sustainability, you've got to think it through, and you've got to have long-range plans. You can still have support for it from philosophically.
Right, and I think that's where they were trying, because there are some very, I mean, Oak Park School District and some other districts in the area, they're supported by 7 generations ahead, and they get their funding through the state, and it comes down from the federal government. And they hire teachers that go into classrooms. I used to volunteer for them. And it's just been so impressive. And I mean, just on field trips, we went to a field trip at Volo Bog, and so many kids didn't even know how to recycle, you know? So I was teaching them how to sort. And so, I mean, these are such some things that we can add to our curriculum. And so that's where I say it's a curriculum component that shouldn't just be at one school because one principal likes it. So is this something that, and this was the concept, is trying to get something across the schools. And Tom has always been supportive of at least getting gardens across the schools. So, I mean, there's this community resiliency component, nutrition component, experiential learning component. There are all these positive components that I've tried to highlight, but I haven't, I mean, I've said what I said. I haven't pushed any further than that.
Yeah, I mean, like Jason said, I mean, I think we'd be willing to revisit it. It's just, you know, we just need to know more of how it would fit in here and how we'd go about it, how we would do it.
Yeah, and I
So-
think there's funding out there for it, for sure. And it's just.
And there may
gaining
be,
steam.
but that's, for us, that would end up being the biggest hurdle. And being able to sustain the funding.
Well, hopefully,
Well, yeah, knock on wood.
everything's uncertain.
Sounds like we need to identify some people who want to champion this and firm up specifics that you maybe didn't get last time around, right?
Yeah, no, that's probably a good idea.
Let me, I'll take the to-do to see if there's someone that's gonna,
I'm actually already working on that.
oh, hi. You're a champion.
Ben, please join me, it's fine. I mean,
Yeah, I'd like to.
I have a report tonight. And this is kind of in line with what some of the citizens parents came and talked about as related to diversity. I mean, it's no secret I'm I don't look like everybody that's in this room. So, and I moved to Grace Lake a number of years ago, and you know, before some of the same reasons that everybody here is, you know, good schools, safe community, it's close to my job, wanted to make sure my family had a great opportunity, it's affordable for us to live. And I've been involved with so much in the community because one of the reasons I have done it is that there's not a lot of people that look like me. So I want to make sure that, one, my kids was represented, others' kids was represented, and the kids that may not look like me see people like me doing things that's positive in the community, you know, like others. So, and it's tough and it's hard, you know. Why I ran for school board, why I went to PTO, why I coached basketball and I coached on the coast. You know, it's been a lot. And I think we need to work toward more diversity. And it's been a big thing for me all the time. And I was one of the ones that kind of pushed the diversity committee. And I'm really busy and a whole lot. And I was never, I never was thinking that I'd be the person that see it through, but sometimes some people bring ideas to fruition and they never, and what the old saying is that a wise man plant a tree and never get to enjoy the shade, right, of that tree. And so I look toward that, and I just want to say I do appreciate how much we've come, how far we've come in terms of diversity, with the diversity committee, with the policy, but I think it's a way we have to go also. You know, there's some concerns that, you know, I have. You know, I would like to see the records also of how many incidents. I'm not saying that I'm an expert on punishment, but two-day in-school suspension don't seem like something that I would think that was enough for a situation like that, you know, the reason I pushed the diversity committee from the diversity policy from the committee, from the beginning, was because incidents that my kids had at school. And I thought it was important, not for just my kids, but all kids and everybody to learn how to work together, because that's how this world is at the end of the day. Everybody working in one vacuum together. Just recently, my son had an issue at school, and he's not the angel, you know, but it was the N-word stuff again, and it's disappointing, you know, that we continually have that happening, and in my opinion, it's a lack of punishment as a result of it. People need to be, you know, just like if you commit murder in certain situations, they give you life, right? I'm not saying a kid should have life for saying something like that, but it should be enough disciplinary action so that not just that kid, but others know you can't do things like that. I just wanted to say that that's kind of my report in terms of saying that I've had to deal with that, so I really appreciate you guys stepping forward and saying it. I've never mentioned it before in terms of my kids dealing with it personally, and one of the reasons that I want to push some items, but in what we're living in now in terms of the day and age, it's so important that we do that. And I, you know, commend the board and the superintendent and the teachers and everybody working toward it, but it's a long way we have to go in terms of educating our young people of next steps and learning how to deal with each other and being sensitive of others. You know, my daughter, she's at Central, and that's one of her issues, that, you know, there's no teachers that look like her. She's the only one that look like her on the cheer team, you know, so, you know, and kids have issues like that. And we as parents, and I'm not saying that that we have to go and bring people in that's not qualified, but, you know, I think we should start looking for people that's qualified. And I do understand that if you look at statistics, I'm a bit in terms of statistics, and what I do, if you guys didn't know, I'm the CEO of the Lake County Housing Authority. So I deal with all kind of people, some of the most vulnerable people, some rich people that have issues with their mortgage, we help them, so we deal with all kind of people. And one thing I'm proud of is that if I look at my clientele and the people that we deal with and the demographics of the people that work for me, we're in line with that. And that's so important that, you know, for sensitivity, for understanding, and for comfortable, and for people being comfortable. So I just want to say two things to end is that, well, three things to end. I do appreciate the efforts that we've made. I would like to see some numbers in terms of how many incidents that we have, and if there's no tracking, I would like for us to start tracking it. And that, you know, I want to encourage the district to continue to move forward by being an example of diversity and, you know, look toward hiring individuals that look like the student population. And I'm not saying we haven't, but in some cases it's not. So.
Thank you, David.
Just to piggyback off of David, I thank David very much for starting this committee, and I feel like I've tried to champion for all families in the district, and I feel like from a socioeconomic perspective, sometimes we have a deficit perspective on parents and kids who are living in those circumstances, and you just have to look at the kids' resiliency and their ability to do anything just like anyone else. So I think we, as a board, if you look at the makeup of our board, we're not exactly diverse. I think that from the board down, whatever we're doing in the diversity committee should be what we're doing. And so I don't know, Ellen, it's your committee, and I've mentioned some ideas with you on how we can try to share more with the community what we're learning, but I feel like this should be an effort that is not closed off. And I don't know how to make it more public.
We do give reports every, you know, whenever we have a meeting.
Yeah, I mean, the meetings are
No,
open, but
that's a
other than
compliance issue. I'm talking about really making some change.
I think we're well, okay, I hear what you're saying.
I'm saying it on the board as well.
Well, how do you mean?
I mean, I'm saying from a board perspective, I think that we need to work on ourselves. And I mean, it starts from the leadership. So, I mean, we're not perfect. So all I'm saying is, I feel like whatever we're doing in the diversity committee, we should be experiencing as a board. And I know we're going to bring it to the administrators, teachers, but I feel like we should be a part of it. I'm not saying we should just get a board report.
And I have offered, invited all the board members for the next two, not Monday
Right.
night, but the next two.
And I do plan on going.
So, yes, we have done that for 2 meetings in a row.
You're not on the board.
Pardon me?
I'm talking about the board. I'm not talking about you.
Yeah, I did.
invited board members.
No, I'm talking about amongst ourselves. I'm not talking about something that's been, I feel like we need to work amongst each other
Okay.
as a team to look at our own biases in the decisions that we're making. I mean, we're making a lot of decisions for our district.
Yeah. Is it a situation where it would be beneficial to have somebody, have a third party come in and provide, I don't know, if training is the right word, but provide something like that, a seminar or something
Sure. I
on
mean, I
these
think,
issues? Or is
It's
it
like
something
board,
that?
it's
Whatever-
like board development, I think would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean,
for
that's
that,
what I would
like-
consider it to be, and it's not
but
something.
I feel like whatever learning is going on, there needs to be crosstalk between what's happening in the diversity committee, because do you understand the connection and then why we need to?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to find that connection, but yes. Tom?
I have a comment. I've 5 years in the US Navy, I've seen a lot of people, different kinds of people, totally different than me, backgrounds and whatever. I think we're in pretty darn good shape, bluntly. To imply we have to bring somebody in to work with us means there's a need somewhere. I haven't picked it up. And I've been to a lot of different countries, and I've seen a lot of rough things, and I've spent half my career at Niles West High School, which is a little United Nations. And I think we're in pretty good shape.
Well, I don't think it's that we're not in good shape. I think it's that we can always do better.
Yeah. I mean, it's
So
not, I mean,
that's the perspective that I think we should look at.
But if I were a man from Mars or a lady from Mars and just landed here, I would think, well, they need some help. And I don't see that as the case at all with us.
I'm not saying we're dysfunctional. I'm saying that we as a board need to develop ourselves as models.
Well, a good perspective would be, I'm a person who, diversity issues haven't been front and center in my life until very recently. I would welcome the chance to learn more about things like implicit bias. I mean, overt bias is one thing, and I know that's something I don't display, but battling implicit bias is something I'd be interested in learning more about, seeing, you know, what are my susceptibilities and where are my blind spots, and yeah, I mean, as an arm of board development, I think this could be useful.
We can.
Without it saying, oh, we have this big problem, which I don't think we have, but this is a good thing.
I think we could look at options at least just to see what's.
Well, again, I'll welcome you to come to the next two meetings, which are going to focus in on those things. And I do have some names of some people that we could bring in. Be glad to do it, whatever you would like to do.
And the next two committee meetings are.
Well, there's one on Monday night, but that's not going to be the training. It would be April 6th. It's the next two board meetings after that at 5 o'clock, right before. Originally, we were going to have it tomorrow night, or Monday night, but the facilitator was unable to make it. So we split it into two. 11th and the 25th.
Okay.
The 11th, okay. And which school?
Whatever the board meeting's at.
Okay. Thank you.
Are they both here, Sue?
No, one's at Park, one's at,
Okay.
one's here.
I'll put that in our weekly update so you have which one they're located at.
Was there any report from the Evaluation Assessment Curriculum Committee?
We'll put those two together. The Curriculum Assessment Committee meets tomorrow morning, and the Diversity Committee meets on Monday, so no, not right now.
All right.
Next meeting.
Next meeting we'll have that, yeah.
Then we'll move on to the consent agenda, unless anyone has anything else to chat about.
Oh, did you want to mention this?
Oh, yeah. Representative Yingling has you may have seen postings for it around, is having an income tax, what is he doing? It's tax relief seminar is what he's calling it, but it's 2 weeks from tonight. It's on the 21st, and Ellen and I and Chris, were you going to go? Paul? I don't know.
No, Paul's going to start
Just
the
three of
meeting,
us?
yeah.
Okay. So the three of us, what we'd like to do is start the board meeting at 7. This seminar goes from 6 to 7. 6 to 7.
Property tax?
Yeah.
He's calling it tax relief, but I think they're going to talk about income tax, property tax, probably the whole shebang.
And tax freeze, probably.
And tax freeze and all that stuff. So we thought we would go hear what he has to say and see what
Possible effects.
but yeah, I mean, that kind of thing, and also just to hear his perspective on some things.
Especially after we met.
Yeah. So the meeting, that would be, ostensibly would be over at 7, so we would be here shortly after that. Jim and Paul would start the board meeting, and we would just arrive probably about 5 or 10 minutes late. It's in, at the Avon Township building down the road, so it's not far away. So if everyone's okay with moving the meeting start to 7, the next meeting, then we would go ahead and repost that and change that.
Isn't the Avon Township Center closer to Avon School?
It's right by, it's basically in Haynesville.
It's
on
right on
Washington
Washington,
Street.
just
Washington.
past.
Washington and Haynesville
Yeah,
Road.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't, I think it's here.
It is here, I think.
Yes,
It's
because
here.
it's 2 here, yes,
Yeah,
it
it's
would
here.
be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, if everyone's okay with that, then we'll go ahead and repost that meeting for 7.
And if you're not gonna be there, let us know soon enough so we know if we have a quorum or not.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea.
That's the 21st, right?
Yeah. Next, if I could have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, including the personnel report.
So move.
Second.
Any questions?
Northern,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Weedman.
Motion carries. Action items, just a few things tonight. First, could I have a motion to approve the 2018-2019 Durham Transportation Contract?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? We discussed this at the last meeting. Chris, if you want to give some highlights there, I guess.
Within the highlights, what we actually have in the board bag, we have two. We have a 6% increase and we have the 5% increase. The 5% increase was keeping the same buses that we have this year, which is the recommendation based on how old the buses are. We sent out a spreadsheet showing you exactly what the ages of the buses are. So the recommendation would be for a 5% increase, which would increase our expenses by over a 2-year period, because they'll be increased by $148,000 the first year, but we will get monies back to the tune of $89,000. So it'd be a $59,000 increase at the 5% level. I gave some examples. There was actually a survey going around about transportation's been a hot topic, just because, I mean, you see what the increase is, 6%, 5%. To those that responded, it's in the packet. Some of them were a little bit jaw-dropping, past 20%. So it's like I said, the recommendation is for 5%. So.
Okay. I mean, that being the case, then the motion should probably include the 5%.
Yes.
So I can amend. We can amend the motion because it's already been moved and seconded. I move to amend the motion to say to make it that we approve the 2018-2019 Durham Transportation Contract with a 5% increase.
So moved.
And then would move to vote on the original motion after we vote on the amendment. Yeah.
Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack.
Aye. And then on the original motion, as amended?
Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Strack.
Aye. Motion carries. For the RJB cleaning service, there were 2 different recommendations in that one as well, or is it just the one?
One recommendation.
Oh, they said 2 copies of the letter in there.
Yeah, one. I think they had one for 1 year and one for
One for the other year.
second year.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Then if I could have a motion to approve the RJB cleaning service contract extension?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Okay.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Meskel.
Aye.
And lastly, if I could have a motion to approve the removal of the accounts payable payroll position from the PSRP contract?
Move.
Second.
Questions?
And this is approved by the union during our negotiations.
Okay.
Strack,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Haskell,
Aye.
Weedman.
Motion carries. Unfinished business, update on the Frederick School parking lot bus drop-off and pickup.
The only update I can give you is that the Village of Grays Lake will be reviewing our request for financial support in their March financial workshop. So I don't have any more update than that.
I have a comment, just, I would suggest if you can do it around 3 o'clock, come out and just watch what happens at Frederick when kids are being picked up.
Very challenging.
I was there yesterday and it wasn't much to it, it seemed. So I took the time to go to a couple of cars, I tapped in the window and identified myself as a board member. And I asked the people.
Did they actually roll the window down
Yeah.
or drive away?
They couldn't move.
That's the problem.
And so I just said, I'm curious, why would you be in this loop here when there's another driveway just to the west about 60 feet or so? And you could go in there and have your kid just walk down the street a little bit, and you could pick the kid up on the curb and drive out, wouldn't have to sit in here. And both persons went, I guess I never really thought of that. And so, at least where I'm at right now, I'd like to have some more I'd like to have some good reasons as to why we need to go further with this, because what I saw, I think is easily remedied by having the people drive in this, the western, the one we'd go to go to the district office. And you can drive all the way around the perimeter, turn to the right, go around the western side, the south side, pick your kid up at the curb, and drive out. The buses would be in the middle of all that. Now, some people would say, well, that bus is there. Well, we would move that bus and paint the yellow spots for the buses a little different place. And when I do Science Olympiad, that's at GMS. Well, I see places where buses are lined up, and the parents drive up there with their cars and pick up their kids at the curb, or they walk through the bus lines and they get on in their cars. Before we spend a lot of money on this, I need to be convinced we really need it.
So sometime could you come over at 3:15 and when they're lining up to get on the bus so we can take a look at it together?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll stick my head in different times.
Good, okay, I appreciate that.
I avoid that time at all.
If you avoid that, don't go down 120 when they either going to school or coming out of school, because it's hard right there.
Now, where's this?
Woodview.
Oh. The one I think is really interesting is right after school is out at Park.
That's that one.
Because you
Don't
can't drive in.
Don't even talk about that one.
You can't
I
drive
experienced that
in.
one for years.
Need a third lane there.
We need a lot.
If I got something there after school, I drive on the out lane when the policeman's there. And then I just park.
We need a parking garage where the kids can come.
Hey, I can stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and do anything I want and nobody does anything.
Oh, dear.
Alrighty then.
Moving on.
I'm just saying, let's think before we spend a lot of money.
Before Tom further incriminates himself, we'll move on to new business. Safety plans.
So at the last meeting, we had a question about the safety plans in our schools. This happens to be the district office safety crisis binder, and in this binder are the crisis plans for each of the school. But in the buildings, each building has one of their own. In the binders is a description of the schools, which includes how many square feet the school is, what the property is, even how many parking spaces there are at each school. There's maps of each school, and all the police departments have a copy of those maps. It talks about the roles and responsibilities. It has the team names in each of the buildings, cell phone numbers, and then it divides into the types of incidents. It could be bus accidents, snowstorms, intruders, unauthorized persons. It talks about all clear, it talks about bomb threats, lockdowns, but for each one, there's a specific plan to use and what do teachers do. Each of the teachers also has an emergency plan in their room, as well as on their badge. It's a short version of everything to do so that they always have this around their necks.
Is that what we have in front of us?
That's why you have it there, so you can see that. We also address relocation and reunification. There are forms and handouts to use if we had to do that with parents, so we made sure that the parents signed that they were taking their kids. It also talks about how we would handle grief for some of the students if that occurred. Since the event in Florida, Park School has met with Round Lake Police. This week, I met with GMS and the Grays Lake Police looking at after-school activities because we feel, and you have met with the Round Lake Beach Police, thanks Chris, we have not really addressed after-school activities. What if the kids are out on the playground or out back playing soccer? So at this point, we're going to develop a plan, and I've talked to Matt and David from Park and have police review that. The police suggested we have at least 2 or 3 options for each event. So do you take the kids in school? Do you have them run the opposite way? So those are things that we'll look at. We've had active shooter drills at GMS over the last few years, several times, and we'll have one at Park over the break. Keith is here as well. We have panic buttons in schools. I'm not going to tell you where they are, but we do have them. And those are checked every Monday, correct?
Once a week, yes, Monday, I get a report and they check it usually they check it every day actually, that we are communicating from our ADS panel for the security of the building and underneath the, where the secretary is. It's checked every night about 9:30 or 10 o'clock. To make sure.
Oh, well.
Somewhere
Went out
under
the
the
door.
desk.
Somewhere.
You know how many people push it for the door?
I didn't want to
And
say
it
the
doesn't.
location.
Yeah, that's all right.
And last year, we had a safety expert, Paul Tim, who has worked with school districts all over the United States, come in and audit our buildings and gave us some suggestions. And we have followed through on all of those. I believe all of them, haven't we, Keith? All of the suggestions that...
We're continuing to, on what he had taught us. I have the custodians at least once a month going around and oiling all the hinges on the doors that aren't used regularly, like the art room doors, other outside classroom doors that aren't used a lot. Because it was one of the things that he pointed out to us as we walked through that, the door opens up, but it comes down and it gets to a certain point and it won't latch. And you can't really see it. And he was right, it's a lack of oiling the hinge that's out to the weather all winter long. And since we've started doing it, most of the hinges are working correctly. Of those that haven't, we've had them replaced. But we're in pretty good shape as far as when they go out the door, at least closes and latches so nobody can get in behind them.
So, question, the active shooter drills, is it with just teachers and administrators? Is it with students also?
No, we weren't students.
Okay, I was going to say. That's
No, yeah. And for some reason, the 2 that I was involved with, I was always the one that was shot. So, but it's amazing to go through that. It's scary. Yeah.
Have we ever gone to a drill? And when I was in high school level, we had those at least once a year.
We have drills, yes.
And how do the kids react to that?
They're used to it now. They do it every year. So, there's sometimes you have a student that is challenged by what we're doing, that you have to work through it with them. But yeah, they're used to it. That's a sad thing to say, that they're used to it, but they know the drill and they know what to do. We're probably going to be, not probably, will be having another meeting with the local fire and police departments from the villages that we're involved with, because when I met with them on this week at GMS, there's been a few changes in what is suggested in some of these crises. And that it's different than even 2 years ago when we did the manual. So we'll need to make those changes and then do some retraining of our staff.
And some of these updates and information be shared with families? I mean, not details, obviously, but I know most families are familiar with fire drills and bus drills, but I also am hearing an uptick of emails and comments about safety at schools around the district. Can we be transparent in sharing all of the drills that are done and without releasing detail as
Sure.
to emergency plans,
Just
but
what kind of
to
drills?
address some of those things that we've been hearing in the community so that the community knows that. I mean, I know some people might watch this video, but I don't think our videos are going viral or anything in the community, so I don't know how much of a reach that is. Well, they might be going viral, maybe, I don't know. But just in response to some of the more recent events where we might say, and again, with all respect to keeping things that are safety related, you know,
But it's
under
just the
guard,
type of drills.
but just
and-
to set up, so that parents are knowing that this stuff is actually being done, that the board has heard about it, that
Okay.
Also,
And-
the social emotional component, because
and
my
the,
daughter
and the
never gets
grief
used to it.
component and the social, exactly. Just to give a little bit more, because again, you do hear about the bus drills and you hear about the fire drills and all those things, but you don't go, it doesn't go.
Okay,
It would be nice, just to follow up what he said. It'd be nice to have like a web link page for our district, just to say what we had. We don't have to say this is our plan, but the superintendent's office has a plan. Each school has
Sure.
a plan. This is what we do. We work with these individuals. Just a list, so parents are like, what you do, we don't know. We don't
Okay.
have to tell them. They can see already.
With absolute respect to confidentiality.
Oh,
because
right.
Yeah,
that-
with
that-
no
yeah.
like strict plans, but this is what we do as a district, this is what we have in terms of preparation. So at least the parents know that we're on top of it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the police did again, make sure that I wasn't going to, well, I told them I was going to go over this at the board meeting, and they
did.
quickly said, do not,
No.
you know, you can tell what the plans are,
Yeah.
what types of plans we have, and that we do have them, but not to share them.
And remember, those are confidential, so they're not foiable, so.
Right.
Do you have a note, just out of curiosity, if there have been any studies done of, like, post-incident studies in cases where there's been a shooting at an office or a school, where they do regular lockdown drills and things like that, the effectiveness of, or the perceived effectiveness of those drills?
I don't know. I can certainly see.
I mean, I just wonder if there's
Yeah. We can look.
Good question.
Well,
study out there.
one of the basic principles was you want to make, if somebody's in the hallway that you don't want to be there, they want to get the perception to them that there's nobody in a room. And so you get the people away from the doors and cover the windows as a standard thing that you do, and nobody talks in the classroom, the doors are shut.
Yeah.
Those basic principles could be told to the parents and whatever.
Well-
But it just shows we're on top of the thing. You know, after Columbine, my wife said if she was raised in New Jersey, when she was in third grade, they would be hiding under their desk because Russia had the H-bomb in those days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So
Yeah.
kids have reacted to this for a long time.
You know, one thing that I had talked to a couple specialty law enforcement people in a meeting we had with the Mayor Commission, and somebody was saying that, you know, the drills are great, but every situation is different. It's good so that people are prepared and aware of drills, but if any shooter come in and act just like the drill, it'll be amazing that it happened. That each situation will be different.
Right.
So, but it's good for the staff to understand that, you know, something may happen and this is how we're supposed to respond. But, you know, you just never know how many people come in. If one person come in, where they go, you know, where the kids at the time they come, all that type of stuff is up in the air. So
We've added some opportunities to have, other than the front office, do the all-call for the buildings. We've been working on that for the last couple of weeks. So there's different places within the building that we could make an all-call, which is important because things might not always happen, or something could happen in the front office and you'd need somebody else to call. So little things that, you know, you don't think about, but we've been able, Brian has worked with us and got that. I think except for Avon, have they gotten that done at Avon?
No, I believe they're working on some wiring issues.
Is there any, I mean, unfortunately, there have been so many school shootings. Is there talk between departments? Are they learning from each other as far as this is
we're
what
talking
happened
about
at our
police
schools?
departments. Or police departments.
Yeah.
I think they do. And then even when we had Paul Tim here, he's gone through so many of these
Right, okay.
that he was able to share with us.
At least, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Ellen, could you clarify, when David asked if the kids were participating in the active shooter drill, you said no, and then later you said kids did participate.
No, I didn't mean to say that kids.
So kids don't participate in any drilling, it's all?
They do drills, but not the active shooter drills.
Okay, what drills, so what
They
kind of?
do
drills?
So they have shelter-in-place drills, they have,
Okay, general?
yes. Mhm.
Soft
It's
lockdown,
still-
hard lockdown.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's, yeah.
But active shooter drill is usually done over the summer with the cops, when the building's empty. Best time to get them
Yes.
in here, and then they get free room to the building.
Those kind of drills really mess with the kids.
Right, so that's why we don't do it with,
Just don't-
when kids are in,
Just wanted to make sure
yeah.
And a lot of it's teaching teachers and administrators
Yeah, how to
handle
respond.
it. And it gives the officers the opportunity to go through the building, see the building, practice their techniques while they go through. And now, up in this area in Lake County, there's even the firemen are going in at the same time. So sadly, the fire department now has ballistic vests as well.
Yeah.
So we have them, and we will be sending in crews behind the cops. We get a pack of cops to go with us if we start triaging right away if that were to happen. Sadly, things have come to that, as we said before. So that's when everybody, police and fire side get into the building and practice that stuff. It works out pretty well.
But at the high school level, they actually do the active shooter situation. That's what I was asking, do we actually, how does a real small child react to that sort of thing?
We don't do within our
Yeah,
children.
that's what I
Yeah.
was asking, okay. But at the high
They,
school
they,
level.
they expect they do drills, but not the active shooter where there's police and,
The ones I was
Essentially, what the
involved in, I
grade
was
school
one of the
student
ones.
needs to know is obey your teacher.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
teachers
yeah.
will have the plan. And I was pleasantly surprised to see how comprehensive and robust those plans were. They were very detailed, and I'm heartened by that. I'm glad
It's
that
taken-
we're revisiting them.
Yeah,
and-
yep. Yes, they're updated every year so that the staff is the correct staff and the right phone numbers, and it takes quite a while to get it done, but we make sure that it's.
It seemed like an undertaking, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item, the temporary addition of one FTE program assistant. For
And I'm going to let Heather explain that.
Hi. Originally, when we started our programs, the LINK program, the MILE program, there are instructional programs in our district to meet various needs of students who require such programming. We were staffed with 2 assistants with 1 certified teacher based on some projected numbers. Through time, our numbers have decreased, so we have decreased our staffing for that K-4 classroom at Avon for 1 certified teacher and 1 paraprofessional. Since about January, our needs keep increasing. Our quantities of students requiring that programming has increased. So we are requesting that we bring our staffing back up to its original allocation of 2 paraprofessionals and 1 certified assistant.
That's a temporary through the end of the year.
Yes, at this point, I think based on our numbers, our grade levels may require it again next year, but I can report that out later on in the school year.
Okay, well, we're going to need to know for staffing.
Did we get more new students in
Yes.
that needed it, or did we reclassify students based on new
It's-
needs?
It's been a combination of move-in students that require that environment as well as some new classifications.
Year-over-year changes, or are these changing?
A lot of these are changing mid-year based on need of student
As far as
need.
the increase, but the decrease, is that yearly?
Same thing. To transition out of our LINK program, it's often within that school setting, and it's class by class because we want it to sustain. So it's not as quick of a process, but usually transitions in are usually based on relevant need, and they happen pretty quickly. Okay. Currently, most of our grade levels are lower. That's why I'm projecting out perhaps we may need that position to sustain. Okay, thanks.
If we have consensus, then we can put that on the agenda for approval next time. Speaking of, topics for future agenda items.
So we have, I received the enrollment projection, and you'll see it tomorrow. I'll send it out to you with the weekly update, but we'll talk about it formally at the next board meeting. So if you can take a look at it ahead of time, it's multiple pages. I'll try to do the abridged version to get it out to you maybe not tomorrow, but sometime with it before the next board meeting, because there's lots to look at, lots of forms to look at and data, and so I'll try to get you sort of a bridge version. Then we got the action item to approve the temporary addition of the program assistant. And what else?
Do we have a one-to-one program assistant that we're going to need as well, or?
It's a substitute for now.
Substitute, okay.
What else would?
CSBO?
Yes, we hope to have an action item on there to approve a new CSBO. I have that for you, so, yep, I can do that too.
Alrighty.
What about park data?
Park data won't be back by then.
No, I mean, last year's, so that we understand the subgroups within schools, the performance by subgroup within schools.
Can we get that?
We'll talk about that tomorrow morning.
We will. Let's talk about it tomorrow morning, and I can put it on the, I'll just put a question mark here. So you want the results of the subgroups on the park?
We keep bringing it up every board meeting, so I don't know why we need to talk about it tomorrow.
No, what I mean is make sure we communicate what we really are looking for so they know exactly what to produce.
So at the district level, we want to close achievement gaps. So I want to understand what are the disparities within schools.
And I can give you that information through the from the map. We have that
Yeah.
readily available.
Perfect. If you don't have it for park, that's fine.
I don't have it for park.
Okay.
One other question I had. I know that the high school, we got a notice, the high school parents got a notice about walkout.
Mm-hmm.
The elementary schools aren't participating in that, right?
No.
Okay.
The options at both Park and GMS is if they want to come together and have a discussion within the building, that's fine, but we're not letting them outside because we feel that's an unsafe situation to put them all outside, let them go outside.
Okay. And just for clarity, in terms of solidarity, a lot of the high schools throughout the nation decided to leave for 17 minutes, leave
Next
school
Wednesday.
for 17 minutes next Wednesday. And a lot of schools working with the students to make sure it's a safe environment and allowing them to show that in terms of solidarity. So I was just making sure, wondering how we can handle that. So.
Anything else? Are there any further public comments?
I just have a question. Are the diversity committee meetings public as well?
Yes, they're posted. The next one is Monday night at Park School at 6 o'clock.
And typically they're
About an
before,
hour.
They're before the board meeting. right?
Yes, well, we made them typically, those two, before the board meeting to try to make it an appropriate time for everybody to make.
There's nothing further than if I could have a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to the sections of the Open Meetings Act listed in the agenda.
So moved. Second.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Parkinson,
Aye.
Masco,
Aye.
Mack,
Aye.
Strack,
Aye.